What's up, guys? I'm William. We're going to do a little segment we like to call In Your Face. I'm here with my buddy Zach and my other buddy Drew. We're going to get it started off real quick. Guys, a lot of been talk in the news. Aaron Hernandez, the whole situation. What do you guys think the Pats could have done? What did they know? Did they know anything? And how does this affect the Patriots offense going forward? Zach, we'll start with you.
I think this is going to be a big effect to the Patriots offense. Aaron Hernandez was one of the top tight ends in the league, right behind his fellow teammate Gronk and Jimmy Graham. I mean, this is a huge blow to the Pats offense, along with the loss of Wes Welker. So it's going to have a huge effect on their season next season.
I agree, because if you look at it, Aaron Hernandez was probably, you can argue, top 2 tight ends. I think that he personally was better than Jimmy Graham. But I don't think the Pats even knew about it. I mean, how could you know that one of your teammates could just kill a guy? You can't.
You say he didn't know. Did you think he did have some baggage with him when he was at Florida? Do you think the Patriots just kind of said, that's in the past, we can look over that? Or do you think they actually looked into it and said, it's nothing big, it's nothing that we can't fix? Or what do you think about that, his days at Florida?
I think that they knew about it, but they didn't make that big of a deal about it. I mean, it's in the past. Urban Meyer kind of talked to him and cooled him down a little bit. So did Tebow. And I'm surprised that Tebow didn't tell the Pats anything about Hernandez's past.
Mm-hmm. Zach, what about you?
Yeah, I think they probably just looked over it. I mean, Janoris Jenkins played at Florida. He got caught for a bunch of drugs, and then he got sent to a lower college, and the Pats drafted him as well, I think. And I think the Pats just tend to sort of look over those kinds of allegations and crime and stuff, and they just take players who are good and try to win.
Cool. All right, guys. Nice. Let's move on to the next topic. Let's change sports. Let's change gears a little bit. Let's move on to the MLB. The All-Star Game, the Midsummer Classic, was this week at Citi Field on Tuesday night. The AL shut out the National League. I believe, was it 3-0?
Yeah.
Was it 3? Okay, 3-0. So there's been a lot of talk on how much emphasis they put on the All-Star Game, whether it should determine home field advantage, which of course we know it does this year. The American League winner, or the American League champion who will go to the World Series, will have home field advantage against the NL participant. Should the All-Star Game be a purely exhibition game with no determination on who has home field advantage, or should it, really matter? And should it have, determine who has home field advantage, or should it go to the best record throughout the season? What do you guys think? I'll start with you, Drew.
I think the All-Star Game should matter, because if you look at it, the Pro Bowl doesn't matter, and nobody tries, and really nobody watches. The cool thing about the All-Star Game for the MLB is that it determines who gets home field advantage. Everybody tries, and there's no, half trying like you see out there. I'm calling out the defensive line and offensive line in the Pro Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Even the coaching, it's just dreadful.
Okay, all right. Zach?
I'm going to have to agree. I think that it should matter in that it makes the game more intriguing because it has more meaning and people will actually watch it. But on the other hand, it does make for a better game if it doesn't have any significance, because then they can just the defense doesn't try as much, so you get a lot more runs scored, and it makes for sometimes a more interesting ball game. So while I think it should matter, in some senses it could not matter, because then it would make for a more interesting ball game possibly.
Okay. Now let me ask, since both of you did say it matters, let me get your opinion on this. If it matters so much, should we keep the fan vote and keep the fans voting for your starters, or make it more managerial decisions where it's a true baseball game, in fact, or keep the fans' influence so heavily weighed?
I think that the managers should decide who plays and who doesn't. Because if it matters that much, are you going to put out somebody that's not really a star, but the fans voted him in? Kind of the hometown here, Freddie Freeman.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Yasiel Puig really deserved it more than Freeman, just based on the fact that he's the next big thing. He's the star now.
Okay. Zach?
I'm going to have to disagree. I think the fans should be voting on who their all-star should be. It keeps the fans intrigued, and if it's going to matter, they're going to have the fans intrigued. And, all the teams in the MLB have at least one representative in the All-Star game for each of their respective sides, the NL or the AL. And so, but you have to have, I mean, the fans are going to know who's a good player and who's not a good player by watching their own team and seeing who's good and who's not. So they're going to tend to vote in the better players anyways without the managers having to do anything. And it sort of takes away from the fans' sort of ability, and the fans are going to feel like they've been robbed of sort of like a thing and feeling like they're a part of involving and creating the lineup of the All-Star game.
Do you guys agree with the principle that every team has to be represented, or should it be the best roster on each side?
I agree with the principle that there should be a person of each team, because if you're having a bad year, you want the All-Star break to be some sort of recollection of maybe hope, and you sort of get that one player in there to sort of give you some sort of inspiration that maybe there is better times to come.
I like it for almost the same exact reason, because you could be the worst team in the league, but at the All-Star game, your All-Star could just come out and start doing well and get on a hit streak. You never know.
All right, guys. Last topic, last shift right here. NBA. There's been a lot of free agent talk, a lot of big free agent acquisitions. Coaches or players, let me ask you, what's the biggest move that's been made this offseason, and who's made it?
I'm going to say Brad Stevens to the Celtics.
Right.
It adds a lot of flavor, and the Celtics go from kind of old and boring to young and intriguing with the trades and getting Brad Stevens. They're going to be fun to watch. They won't be good the first 2 years, but they'll be really fun to watch.
So you think this is a rebuilding project?
Yes, this will be a rebuilding project, and I think that the Celtics actually got the better end of the deal with the Nets.
All right, Zach?
All right, I'm going to have to agree with the Nets trade being probably the biggest of the offseason so far. I mean, it's created exactly what Drew said. It's created like a really good rebuilding year with tons of draft picks and Brad Stevens, as he said. So it's going to be good for the Celtics, but I think the Nets also got a good end of the deal with KG and Paul Pierce. I mean, what's not to like in both of those players? So I think probably both teams it ended up good for both of them for the time being.
Great answers, guys. This has been Sports Broadcasting in your face. For Zach and Drew, I'm William, signing off.